So in an earlier video we did, we talked about content regulation and how or whether content on streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon etc. are going to get can be subject to a certification regime where they'll be forced to put whether something is 18 plus or 13 plus, and whether it has nudity or it has sex or it has violence or bad language, or will they have to put up a screen below saying that when someone is smoking on screen. And you know, for those of us who watch these platforms, it's a this is pretty standard. We keep these things keep happening in both Indian shows and international shows, but you don't see this kind of content on TV. You don't see this kind of content on in films. The question that I have about that I've asked about this is that what differentiates cinema and TV from online content? You know, but there is one question that we've missed so far, which is what differentiates Netflix publishing content from you and me publishing content, and how does the internet differentiate between someone like you or me who's just uploading a video on YouTube, or someone like Netflix which has its own site and it is streaming content on the web, right? And to my mind, nothing. So internet has basically two types of providers. One is what are called intermediaries, which are just transmitting information. So let's say an ISP transmits a website to you because you want to go and see that website, and so ISP cannot be responsible for the website content, right? In the same way, YouTube is an intermediary. So if I'm uploading this video on YouTube, it cannot be held responsible for the content that I upload. YouTube can't be held liable, it can't be taken down, it can't be sued for my content. Now there's a law that prevents the YouTube from being sued, and that law is an important part of how the internet works, because that's what allows platforms to get scale, right? Now with Netflix, it's another content provider, and for that the intermediary is actually an ISP. So whether you have a Jio connection or you have an Airtel connection or you have a Hathway connection, the Hathway only provides you access to Netflix. So just like Netflix is a content provider as for the internet, you're a content provider and I'm a content provider. And so any self-regulatory code that applies to Netflix should logically apply to you and me as well. So if there's going to be a certification process, and I was at a discussion a few days ago where someone from the certification board, or as it is popularly called the censorship board, actually said that, you know, they certify 21,000 films a year. Now the same law or the same norm of certification of content is going to apply to Netflix and Amazon and YouTube originals, then that same is going to apply to you and me. How is any board going to, you know, certify the millions of videos that are put up on the internet? So the government has an option of regulating these things by in one or two ways. One is, if it's a company that's uploading content, then they could perhaps restrict the company and saying, if you're uploading content, then you need to get certified. Or if it is if it's a large company with X number of users and Y amount of revenue, then that could have to submit its content to certification. So we don't know how it's going to happen, but this is something which governments have always struggled with, because someone who says I have got 50 million users can basically divide those into 50 different companies of 1 million users each, and therefore evade certification. Because I came to this question of a very simple idea. If my film is being shown on Netflix, I can also upload the same film on YouTube. So why should there be a certification sort of a regulation for my film on Netflix versus it being on YouTube? Effectively, I'm a content provider and Netflix is also a content provider, they're licensing it. So this question is what I believe has to be at the heart of discussion about content regulation on the internet. And we've heard that there's going to be a meeting of the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal on the 10th of October, some kind of a workshop where they're going to look at figuring out how to regulate players like Netflix and Amazon Prime. My thing is, don't regulate them. It's impossible for you to regulate content providers on the internet. If something is illegal, take it down. and there are laws that allow you to do that. You can, under section 79, you can file a complaint with an ISP or with the YouTube and get that content taken down. The certification process is not going to work.